Glenn swore me in. As I recall, the oath bound me to uphold the laws of Montana Territory and do whatever Glenn told me to, till death do us part. He pinned a badge onto my shirt and gave me a snort of whiskey from a bottle he kept on hand in case of snakebite, rainy weather, or whatever. "I figure you'll catch up with Delbert somewhere this side of the river," Glenn said. "I expect he'll already be tired of the wild, free outlaw life. He might even be glad to see you." "But don't take your own horse," Glenn said. "Instead, go down to the livery and put a saddle on Big Mildred, my mule. She's what you need to get this job done." Now, Big Mildred was a local celebrity around Dry Creek. Born of a Belgian mare and a mammoth jack, she stood a good 17 hands high and was strong as a locomotive. She was sort of a pet of Glenn's, and while she wasn't likely to win any beauty contests, the old girl had a sweet nature and a willing spirit. I was about to ask Glenn why I should ride his mule on my muddy manhunt when he told me. "The muck out there is hub-deep to a water wheel," he said. "I figured Delbert's pony has gave out on him by now and left him afoot. That would mean our sneak thief is likely pretty well played out himself. Shouldn't take much of a tracker to follow his trail." I took my slicker down from the peg by the door, slipped it on, and stepped outside. Glenn stood watching from the doorway as I high-heeled my way up the rain-slick boardwalk toward the livery stable. 5 minutes later I had caught and saddled Big Mildred and was riding her out of town. Most mules have short, thick heads and small, narrow hoofs, but Big Mildred must have took after her mama. Mildred had a long, sorrowful face whose features included a big Roman nose at one end and a huge pair of long, hairy ears on the other. Her feet were less than dainty. Fact is, they could each have well-nigh covered a dinner plate. But Glenn was right. Old Mildred turned out to be just what the doctor ordered. Now, if you've never spent springtime on the northern plains, you might not be familiar with gumbo mud. We don't generally get much rain up here, but when we do, it can turn the soil to a gummy goo that'd make your everyday quagmire seem like a dance floor. Wet gumbo bogs down cattle, mucks up wagon wheels, and plumb restricts the progress of whatever tries to travel upon it. I believe that under the right circumstances, gumbo mud could swallow a freight train, tracks and all. Anyway, such was the murky muck Mildred and me, and Delbert the runaway thief, were dealing with that morning. As Glenn had surmised, Delbert wasn't hard to track. His trail led southwest, his pony's hoofprints plain as bullet holes in a bathtub. Delbert had lit out at a full gallop to begin with, the feet of his glass-eyed steed gouging great holes in the wet earth and flinging gobs of sod far out behind. Before long I could see where his mount had slowed to a trot, then to a walk. I knowed my hunt was nearing its end. Sure enough, maybe a mile farther on at the edge of a long coulee I came upon the pony.